Good morning, you guys, it's Karen. I thought I would come and give you an update on the whole menopause situation, symptoms, headaches, and also the blood test results, because I don't think I've shared those with you. I had what's called a female hormone panel test in December 2018, so nearly 2 years ago. I had that done with letsgetchecked.com, so it's one where they send you a kit, you do take your blood at home, send it in, and they give you the results. And then I had a menopause test this year in August, so 2 months ago I had a hormone menopause test, same kind of thing. I had this one done via medichecks.com, and again they send you a kit, you take your blood, send it in, and then you get the results a few days later online. I think I had said to you guys I was already thinking of taking HRT, but the results of the hormone test have kind of really changed things for me and shown that, you know, it's definitely worthwhile me trying HRT and or maybe even stopping some of the other medication I'm on, and it just gives me another potential element for some health issues that I'm having. The other thing is that I think in the last video I did, which was 2 months ago as well, I think I was waiting for the results when I did the video, is that I'd said, you know, until my symptoms get horrendous, and actually pretty quickly they were becoming unbearable. But the main focus for me was my head, because as you guys know, I've had a headache every day I've had a headache, a problem with headache and migraines, etc. for 17, 18 years. But for the past 3 years, I've had these daily headaches combined with a kind of foggy brain. But with the introduction of the menopause as another sort of potential cause, it's made me think that the foggy brain and the headaches could be two different things. What I've also realised is it doesn't really matter whether or not you are menopausal. You know, I think I was focusing too much on, am I perimenopausal, am I menopausal, am I postmenopausal? I was focusing too much on that. It doesn't really matter. If you're at this age, it matters what your hormone balance is, how you feel, and what you want to do. And there's also some advantages to starting HRT early before being postmenopausal. And that's what the results of the test allowed me to have a look at. So let me put up the test, the female hormone panel that I got in December 2018. So this is the one from letsgetchecked.com. So you can see that everything except for my prolactin came back as normal. So my follicle stimulating hormone was normal, that was at 5.3. It has to be really high to be postmenopausal, so in like 25 and above, and so that one was completely normal. The luteinizing hormone, again, completely normal. Again, to be postmenopausal, it would be somewhere between 7 and 58, so easily in the normal range there. Next, what you can see is that my prolactin is high. Now, the doctor had been concerned about this because what I got from this was a telephone call from Let's Get Checked, from a doctor there saying that I should go to my own doctor with these results and get them to look into it more, because high prolactin can mean a tumour. I went to the doctor and they repeated the test. I think we had to wait for a month. They repeated the test and it had gone down again. It was still quite high, but it was back to kind of high normal, if you like. But having since looked into this, high levels of prolactin can be perimenopausal sign. Be when you're perimenopausal, you're very sensitive to prolactin and they can be raised. So that was perhaps something that, you know, nobody mentioned. I didn't look into myself any further. I wasn't even thinking about menopause, perimenopause, etc. The last one is probably the most important, the estradiol, because that is the one that will cause you all the problems. You know, the lack of estrogen in your system is the one that's going to cause you to have the most symptoms, I would say. So you can see there my estradiol is 132, but you can see how big a range it is, because 571 is somewhere where it's kind of in the middle. And so that you know, postmenopausal estradiol would be below 100. So looking back now, I think that 132 looks fairly low. You know, there could be reasons for that, and it is obviously still within the medically normal range, but it's getting towards the low end even then. So that was December 2018. My headache started in 2017. No, like I said, I've had my headaches for many, many years, but the foggy brain and the kind of daily headaches started in about 2017, so about a year before that. So that was then I had this one just done this year in August, and this is the most interesting one, I think. So it shows that my FSH levels are within the normal range, well within the normal range actually. You can see that to be postmenopausal it would need to be above 25, but again you can see if you compare it to the one I had nearly 2 years ago, my FSH is rising. So again, that is a little bit of an indicator that potentially menopause is happening. When you look at the luteinizing hormone, it's almost identical. It's 2.41 now. It was 2.4 back then. To be postmenopausal is 7.7 to 58. So not looking there like it is, I'm anywhere near postmenopause. But again, the last one is the most interesting, and this is the estradiol, and this is the one where I was like, wow, okay, this is where I need to pay attention. So if you can see, it tells you there that postmenopause would be less than 100 on the scale of 0 to about 1,000, and I am 106. And so when I saw that, I was like, this to me explains a lot. You know, it tells me that my estrogen is low. I don't think that I'm nearly postmenopausal. I honestly don't still, because I've only just had a period a month ago, and you have to go a year without a period and then they consider you postmenopausal. My mum was, you know, later than this, but also there are reasons why my estrogen could be dropping in addition to just being perimenopausal, menopausal, etc. And that is that I've been on cyproterone for a long time. Cyproterone is an anti-androgen, so I'm on that because of my polycystic ovary syndrome, but that is something that can reduce estrogen. And that is why my gynecologist had always said to me, if you go 6 months without a period, go and get your estrogen checked. Now, what I've come to realise probably over the last 5 years, maybe even 3 years, is that blood tests and checking levels of everything in your system, be it vitamins, iron in my case, hormones in my case, something is only done about it by the medical profession if it falls into the category of medically abnormal. And that includes with these tests here. I've got the report, let me put the report up from the doctor's menopause opinion. So this is from this menopause result showing that less than 100 is postmenopausal, meaning that you really need estrogen. Mine was 106 and it can be as high as 1,000. She said, thank you for monitoring your health with MediChecks. I can see you're taking this to investigate for the menopause. I note you've been experiencing irregular cycles. Your thyroid stimulating hormone is fine because they checked those as well and they were both normal. Your sex hormones are all within normal limits. They do not reflect the typical picture seen in the menopause, which would be the high FSH and LH with a low estradiol. However, in early menopause, hormones can fluctuate and appear normal. Due to this fluctuation, over the age of 45, a diagnosis of menopause can be made on clinical symptoms alone, which is bizarre to me because they are a company providing a blood test and it's almost saying this is irrelevant. And then it just gives me a source of information. But there's no... To me, that should have highlighted your estrogen is low. And I don't know why that's not brought up in the medical industry. I suppose it's time and funding, etc. And, I mean, this isn't NHS, but I don't know what I think they should have suggested to me is... I don't actually know what I think they should have suggested to me. What I would suggest to you guys is that to take control of your own health as much as you possibly can. And if you can afford something like this, a test to have a hormone panel done or a menopause test, I think is really, really helpful. I did look at going to, into a clinic and having the full consultation, etc., which was about £300, but that was just before lockdown, and obviously that service has not been available ever since, and so this was the closest thing I could do. And actually this is really useful if you're somebody that's happy to investigate things yourself. I think it's really useful to be able to do it this way, and I can't remember how much it was. It was under £100 anyway. It wasn't hugely expensive. So I had those results, and I went, well, I didn't go actually. I had a consultation with a GP over the phone to ask for HRT. I knew that it might be a bit of a battle, and it was. Starting off, it was a battle because my BP was a bit high, but then I had to take readings for a week and it was fine. So then I was allowed it because there is a risk on HRT of you getting a blood clot, and so you need to have good blood pressure in order to be on them. Other than that, it was fine. You know, they weren't arguing with me at all. They didn't ask to see the results, but I told her about this result of this low estrogen, and she said, yep, that definitely might be useful to you to be on HRT. She went through all the risks. The risks are completely different now to how they were thought to be, you know, 10, 15 years ago. There is a slight increased risk of ovarian cancer, but it is a very, very small percentage. There is an increased risk of breast cancer, but breast cancer is, although there is an increased risk, there's a bigger increased risk of getting breast cancer from lifestyle. So drinking, smoking, being overweight, you know, I should be more concerned with my weight than I should be on HRT basically. But putting the two together, I prefer to focus on losing weight and staying on HRT if it helps me. And the other, so, you know, I need to make sure that I have regular breast exams. We can't get them until we are 50. So I've got to wait another 2 years until I'm eligible for one. But I'm guessing I could probably have one done privately, but I'll make sure that I check for lumps, etc. And like I said, try and change my lifestyle. One of the other risks was talked about was an increase in heart problems, but that was only if you were starting taking it later in life. Actually starting to take it at this age, there's more of a protective effect from the HRT, although they don't prescribe it as a protective effect, if that makes sense. So it's quite a complicated thing, and that's it just in summary. I'm not saying that's 100% correct on the research. You know, it's constantly changing and slightly different depending where you read it, but we talked about the risks anyway and agreed that it was worth me trying this HRT and seeing how many of my symptoms, if any, are eliminated. What I don't currently know and can't really figure out is should I continue to take the cyproterone. I'm pretty sure they haven't, the GPs haven't clocked it. I completely forgot about it. It's not something I take daily. It's something you take the first 10 days of every calendar month, and you don't have to take it that often. You can take breaks from it. But anyway, that's something that I need to get in touch with them and ask them to have a look. Should I still take that? Because if it's reducing, if I'm taking estrogen, but it's reducing estrogen, and also it is a weak progestogen, it just could get very confusing. So anyway, I eventually got the HRT. It took a long time to actually get my prescription because they gave me prescription. I tried to get it. My chemist didn't have it. I went to about 3 or 4 different chemists. None of them had it in stock. Finally found out that this was very difficult to get hold of this type of the particular one they prescribed me. So I needed to have another consultation with the doctor and get another prescription, and you know, there was a lot of things like that, and there was a bank holiday weekend in between, and I eventually got it about 4 or 5 days before I went on holiday, and I was delighted. I was like, right, let me start taking this, because I was just convinced at that point that some of my symptoms would disappear. So I have now been taking it for, I think I've got about 5 more tablets left. Let me show you it. I actually opted for tablets instead of patches because when I used nicotine patches, I had trouble with them adhering to me, and there was some other reason that I can't even think of, but I think I will go to patches at some point because patches are less of a risk than tablets. This is what they look like when they're full. So you can see there's half red tablets and half white. The red ones have a mixture of estrogen and progestogen in them, which I need to take because I still have a womb. If you don't have a womb, you'll probably just get all white ones. So this is the first pack I'm on here. So these are called NovoFem. Yeah, NovoFem. And so they're just days, and you just click this forward each day, pop one out and take it. Simple. So I started taking them. I have had 0 side effects. Nothing extra, no extra symptoms, no nausea. You can get nausea from them, you can get headaches, which I thought the only way that I would know if they were causing me headaches is if my headaches got even worse. But I've had not one single side effect from them. So let me tell you the problems, the symptoms that I had at the point I started taking this, and then I'll tell you how I'm feeling so far. So I've got 1, 2, 3, 6 more, and then I've been taking these for a month. They said that it can take, for some people the change is overnight, some people it takes a couple of weeks, for others it could take months. So I'm not really going to fully judge this until I've been on it for 3 months. So the symptoms I had, sleep problems. I just could not get a full night's sleep no matter what I did. And it wasn't just the getting up to go for a wee, but that was part of it. You know, I was waking up because I needed a wee constantly, but I just didn't seem to be able to sleep all the way through. The foggy brain, that I just suddenly thought, I know that the neurologist is telling me that this is a typical migraine thing, but I've had migraines for 17 years and didn't have the foggy brain with it other than for the last 3 years. So is this a separate thing to the headaches? Headaches, joint pain, the pain in my fingers. I've got arthritis in my fingers. But normally they hurt, like if I'm doing too much texting or something like that, you know, but my fingers were just hurting so much I could barely lift the kettle. My elbows were hurting, you know, my tennis elbow had flared up, my knee was really bad. All of these kind of joint pains were appearing. Frequent urination. Oh my God, the going for a wee was driving me bananas because of course I have bladder issues and have had, again, for many, many years, but it was fairly under control in the evening, to the point where I'm on amitriptyline. I would take my amitriptyline and I would go to bed and maybe get up once, go back to bed, sleep the whole through night, and that was it. But now it got to a point where I was literally getting up 6 or 7 times again at night, and it's just ridiculous, on top of needing to go all the time in the day. And it's really, really inconvenient more than anything, because, you know, like say we're going for a walk, I'd go for a wee before I left the house, and then 10 minutes into the journey I'd need it again, and then another 10 minutes into the journey I'd need another one. You know, we'd always constantly be trying to find somewhere where I could go for a wee. So that was a huge issue. Memory problems. I've always had a bad memory, but it was obvious things that I was forgetting. Things that were just, I was just so scatty, it was unbelievable, and we were laughing about it. But for example, one week I do the online ordering of the shopping, but Kev generally does, well, we kind of split the cooking now, but on a Saturday night we always have a pizza, but I'd forgotten to order the mozzarella because we kind of make our own. And he said, the following week he said, don't forget to order the mozzarella. So I'd ordered the mozzarella, but I forgot to order the pizza. There was literally, for the last 6 months, has not gone a week where I have got something wrong on the shopping that is really obvious. Like we have a curry on a Friday night and I've forgotten to order the curry, or we'd left the house and I'd forgotten my purse. The other day we were going for a picnic. I made sandwiches but forgot to take the sandwiches with us. You know, those kind of things were happening that were really, really obvious. So memory problems, frequent heavy periods, which I know that these tablets won't necessarily help, and hot flushes. The hot flushes had got to the point that they were unbearable, and they weren't. Do you remember in August I spoke to you? So it was only like within a month they just were unbearable, because I was just getting so hot every single day and I couldn't cool down. I felt like I was boiling. You know, it's like somebody had put me in a pot and was boiling me. It was absolutely awful. And I was sweating a lot, and I had night sweats as well, but I still wasn't going bright red or anything like that. I just felt really, really uncomfortable. So those are the symptoms I had when I started taking these. Sleep problems. My sleep problems had got slightly better before I started taking these. So I don't know how much is due to taking these, but I can now almost sleep a night through without waking up. So what I mean by that is, I will still be waking up thinking I could probably get up and go for a wee, but I'm not going to bother, and then I fall back to sleep again. So I'm not literally closing my eyes and waking up in the morning, but I'm now able to sleep through the night sometimes. Other times I'm like, oh, I'm just going to get up and go for a wee, and then I go back to sleep again. So sleep is definitely improved, but I don't know whether that's down to the HRT or whether that was, you know, because some of this could be grief. That's the other thing. Joint pain, I've had no pain in my hands since starting this. The pain in my hands, the pain in my elbows has reduced completely. So that's really, really good. Memory is slowly getting better, but I feel like I'm being more mindful. I don't know whether I feel like I've got a better memory or not. Frequent heavy periods. I haven't had a period since taking these. No bleeding at all. You bleed the first week of taking them, which I didn't, but I'll see if that happens with these, you know, because obviously the levels of progesterone and estrogen will change, and then I'll start taking the progesterone. So we'll see how that goes next month, but so far nothing. The hot flushes, I have not had one since taking these. Literally since day one of taking them, I've had nothing. So that's really, really useful. I don't think I would have taken these simply for the hot flushes, even though they were getting a bit ridiculous, you know. So the biggest things and the biggest area where I've seen an improvement is in the foggy brain and in the bladder. The bladder, I went from getting up 6 or 7 times after going to bed to go for a wee, and I'd literally go back to bed, 5 minutes later I'd need to get up again, to not really needing to go, like I can get up once or twice, and sometimes not at all. There have been nights where I've gone for a wee, gone to bed, and not got up again until maybe the middle of the night or the following morning. That would be really unusual to go, you know, to go to bed, go to sleep, get up the next day and go for a wee. That's the ideal, but it's hugely better. It's definitely helped, but it's only helped in the evening. It's not helped during the day. And I think people struggle with understanding about bladder that they're two different things. The bladder signals you get during the day and the bladder signals you get at night when you relax and are going to sleep are two completely different things. But it's helped with that evening constantly getting up, which is just such a huge relief, and not something I was curious to see if it would help, but not something I necessarily expected. So I'm really interested to see if it can help the daytime at all, you know, as I go on, maybe as I build up my estrogen more, and I'll probably have another menopause test just to see what those estrogen levels are in a month or so. So it's helped that. With the foggy brain, I would say that I have, over the last 3 years, had them for 90% of my time, because there was a small time, you may remember, just before last Christmas, where I had a little bit of respite and I thought it was the physio that was helping, and I had like a couple of weeks where I just didn't have any of it and I was getting on with life, but then it came back again with a vengeance. Apart from that, I would say I have them 6 days out of 7 at least. It's more like I have them 13 days out of 14. I'll get one occasional day every 2 or 3 weeks where I'm like, oh my goodness, you know, I don't feel like I'm starting to need to sleep at like 11 o'clock in the morning, and then I fight it and eventually have to lie down at 1 o'clock and then feel terrible for the rest of the day. Since about, 2 days after taking this, I was telling my friend that I felt like the muggy head was less. And so I didn't have to, and the headache. Oh shoot, I've just popped that forward. I was just playing with that and I've popped it forward, which means the tablet will come out. I need to be really careful. I was telling my friend that I didn't feel quite as drained. The headache wasn't quite as bad, and I was able to work through it. And that was only on day 2. So that could have just been a coincidence, but I've had one muggy headed day since taking these, and that was a couple of days ago. But I've been on holiday, so it's difficult to judge at the moment, but it's looking really, really hopeful. My headaches are still there. I've still got these headaches, but they are more bearable. They're not quite as unbearable all day long. They get to a place of being unbearable sometimes during the day, but the foggy brain definitely feels like a separate issue now, because the foggy brain is the thing that has reduced the most. And I can't explain to you how bad having a foggy brain is. If you have it, you know. I'd almost prefer to have the headache just not at its top level, but the headache, I can work through things, and I can take painkillers, and I can put ice on my head or peppermint, and I can do things to help it. The foggy brain, there's absolutely nothing I can do. I can't look at a computer, I feel dizzy. The only thing I can do is lie down, and these seem to be helping that. Now, like I said, I've been on holiday. This is only my second day back to work, if you like, and I haven't actually been doing that much today and yesterday work related. This is the second video I'm filming. I just filmed a little intro to our holiday vlog, and I've been on the computer a little bit, but it will be the next 2 weeks that are the real teller as to whether or not this has worked. But yeah, on holiday, I didn't have any days at all where I needed to sleep, which is just unheard of for me. But that does sometimes happen on holiday because, you know, I'm more relaxed. I'm not sitting at a computer. I'm not sitting filming. A lot of it comes from my neck. Actually, that's not true. I had one day where I had to sit in the car. I forgot about that day, actually, because it was so quick. Because we went for a walk. I felt fine in the morning. We went for a walk. We started off and I just said to Kev, no, I feel like completely dizzy. I can barely walk because it makes me feel completely weighed down and I'm sort of dragging my feet. So we went back to the car and I said, you're going to have to take Watson for a walk. Kev went off to take Watson for a walk while I stayed in the car, and I took some pain meds and just sort of sat there with my eyes closed. But of course, Watson doesn't like us being apart, so he'd come running back to the car. We drove somewhere else and went for another walk, and actually within like half an hour I was feeling better. So it was almost like a little blip, if you like. Yesterday I felt a little bit muggy headed, but not enough for me to need to lie down or anything. So from that aspect, I would say that things are looking really hopeful. The headaches are not as bad, the foggy brain is not as bad, the bladder is definitely not as bad. So I am going to continue on and assess it again in a month or at the end of 3 months, you know, and come and tell you how I'm getting on. But I'm delighted. I'm absolutely delighted. I'm still baffled as to why, with all of the specialists I've seen, nobody has ever mentioned the menopause or hormone balance. I just don't understand. Like, the guy I see about urology, you might go, well, he's a guy and he's not a hormone specialist, but you can read that menopause affects the bladder. So how would he not know this when he's seeing so many women, you know, of all different ages? And how would it not even be suggested? You know, the GP, all the different GPs that I've seen, the neurologist maybe not so much, but even so, headaches are a known symptom of the menopause. And so again, like I said, I've seen so many different specialists. I'm surprised that nobody ever mentioned it, and I've had to find this out for myself, and I've had to take charge of this and say I would like HRT. I've got my own blood test. It does show that I've got low estrogen, you know, so I would really advocate for you doing your own investigations, you know, and figuring things out for yourself if you can. The kind of ironic thing with my foggy brain and headaches was that because I only got a couple of hours a day, I would have to spend that time, you know, doing YouTube videos, working, doing things with Watson, walking Watson, doing the things, the daily things that needed doing. There wasn't an awful lot of time left to investigate things, you know, but sometimes you just have to prioritise it, you know, prioritise your health. And this, what I'm hoping is, if this continues on and I feel better and I have less headaches, it means that I can stay in touch with people a bit more, because that's something that I've not been able to do because of this. But also I can exercise more, you know, and therefore be healthier in general. So that's where I'm at. These are not supposed to help. See, that's that pill gone flying. Because I've clicked it open. Goodness me. These are not supposed to help, what I was going to say, with the bleeding at all. She did say that to me. She said they won't do anything at all. There was another medication she was going to give me to take on holiday to stop the bleeding, because although it stopped itself, thankfully, but she wanted me to take this medication to stop the bleeding, but not to take the HRT for another month. But I said to her, I'd prefer to take the HRT and put up with the bleeding, actually, because I was so convinced the HRT might help the foggy brain. I really wanted to get it into my system as quickly as possible, and the bleeding wasn't as inconvenient as the headaches and foggy brain were, and the bladder and all the rest of it, you know. So I know that medication is there if needed. It's not that you can't take the two together. She just said some people can experience side effects with HRT, so she wanted to see if I reacted at all to that, and then if I don't, she can add in this other drug if ever I need it to stop me bleeding. And it's not tranexamic acid, because tranexamic acid that I took the last time I was bleeding does stop it, but it doesn't stop it starting again. So if I have these constant heavy periods, I can go on this other drug with this HRT that will help with that. I think I've told you everything. I know that was a bit of a long-winded video, but I hope that this will be useful to lots of you. I know there are hundreds of videos about menopause, but you know, like I said in my last one about the confusion, we're all so different that hopefully, you know, I might be doing something differently, or I might have a symptom that somebody else doesn't have, or I might react differently, and you can like look at all of the information and see if any of it applies to yourself, you know. I'll link to the test that I got in the description below. If you've got any questions at all, please feel free to ask. I'm more than happy to discuss that, you know, and answer any questions I can. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll speak to you again soon.